I had to first realize what I was doing that was giving you a negative about me, that I didn't love
Perception, yeah.
you or had no care about you. That for me was hard. I'm like, oh, how could that even happen? But I had to look at myself. Well, how have I been responding? How have I been available? How have I nurtured this relationship? Especially we're family, and to me, a family is should be a close relationship. I know it's not for everybody, and I'm still working on some of those areas of my family that have kind of slipped away. But I desire to have that closeness again. So that was the first thing, and that was me, because I get to control how I respond to my family members, the people that God has put around my life, my friends, my neighbors, whatever. So that's just about me. I can't expect everyone else to change so that
Right.
I can like them or interact with them or whatever. So that was the first thing, was figuring out how I was putting off a vibe that was not approachable. And that was hard for me to realize.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
everybody.
hi everyone. Bonnie Violet here. I am a transgender queer, spiritual, digital drag artist, digital chaplain person. I think I got them all in there.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
And this is my
Uh,
co-host.
hey, everybody. I'm Tina Frank, and thank goodness I don't have all those long introductions, but I am a mature Christian woman, and I'm just so excited to be a part of this conversation. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yes, thanks for joining us. I know I was like, I just like throw more words in front of there. I don't even know what I was
Oh, my
saying. Like,
goodness.
I think I got all the words out, but I got them out in an order I don't think I've ever said them before.
No, but I think they still made sense. I think we got the gist of it.
Right, right, right. Oh,
That's funny. I always,
me
I
and my
always
labels.
I always think, okay, this is what I'm going to say when it's my turn. And then I'm like, just before I'm going to say it, it's like blank. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm just going to say whatever comes up.
You're like, oh, it was so good too.
Yeah, the way I practiced it, it was on point.
Yes, yes, yes.
Anyway, thank goodness you guys know that we're not perfect. And
Right.
we're all just here hanging out.
Yeah. If you're looking for perfection, you came across the wrong podcast.
That's exactly right. That is
Right.
exactly right.
So how have you been? What's been going on with you since the last time I saw you or talked with you?
Oh, you know what? I've been good. I did actually get to go kayaking last weekend, and I did not tip over, just for the record.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a great time. Hadn't been in a kayak, I don't think, since I've been a long time. It was so
Hmm.
fun. I had a great time. I got to have my own kayak, which is nice because I think last time having a partner in my kayak was more of a challenge than a help.
I could only
Uh,
imagine.
but we had a great time. We went all around the lake, spent 2 or 3 hours out there. The weather was perfect. Couldn't
Mm,
ask for better food. I'm actually considering getting another trip on the calendar before it gets too cold here in Arizona.
nice.
It's
Well,
yeah, it
when's
was
too
fun.
cold? January?
I know, huh? It's not so much about the air as it is the water. So the water
Yeah.
does get a little cold. But yeah, so it was so much fun. And I did get to go into higher elevation, so the
Mm,
weather wasn't quite as humid and hot. So it was a nice break. So that was probably
nice.
the highlight of my week.
Well, that sounds like a great time. And you didn't get sunburnt or anything?
Nope, I was very smart. The folks that took us
Mm,
out gave me some good tips that I chose to follow. And
mm,
yeah, I did. It's so funny. I did get a sunburn on the back of my hands. So
mm.
random. I've never
That's an
had a
odd
sunburn
place.
on the back of my hands. The good
Hmm.
news, it wasn't horrible. So it went away after a couple days. But yeah, I was
Right.
laughing so hard I had to line.
I'm like, are you throwing me a little shade there? Because
Yeah.
last week I came on and I was like, well, I was sunburnt in so many different places.
You were. You were. I wasn't trying to throw you any shame. No.
Right. It was more than just like the back of my hands.
It was. And how's your
Yeah.
sunburn doing this week? Better?
No, no sunburns. I traded in the
Yeah.
sunburns for the mosquito bites all over my legs.
Oh,
I
honey, I'm
know.
sorry.
Oh, it's all good. It's, it's I guess it's just it's an aesthetic. It's a choice, I guess. But thank goodness for cortisone cream.
Oh my goodness, no kidding.
Yeah.
Now, is
And
that the
hello.
one that makes your skin pink?
No, it doesn't. It's
Okay.
yeah, it's just like kind of clearish a little bit,
Okay.
but for folks who have joined us, say hello. I see that there are like 5 people here. So I don't know if you know that we can see that, but we can. We don't know who you are, but we'd love to hear you say hello. Yeah, all that fun stuff. I mean, we could talk at each other all the time, like nobody's listening, but it's
Yeah.
nice to hear from you all when we can. I am in DC. Well, I'm actually like 30 minutes outside of DC. I'm actually kind of in the woods.
So you're in 2 weeks in the woods. First
Mhm.
week in, I want to say Maryland. That's not right.
Yeah, it was in
Yeah,
Maryland. It
Maryland.
was
Okay.
Swanton,
Okay.
yes,
And then
which is a
this week in
lake.
DC.
And then now I'm in Owings, which is also in Maryland,
Wow.
but it's closer to DC than Baltimore.
Oh, wow.
I shouldn't have called out those people. They all left.
Oh,
It's just
oh
that's
well.
okay.
We'll just have to have a conversation.
All right, right. Well, what else is going on with you? I know we're just going to be just us squirrels today,
Yeah.
just chitting and chattering.
Again, we're in a season here. We're just kind of getting ready to shift. It is fall.
Hmm
I had my first pumpkin
I
spice
ugh,
beverage.
right.
You don't like pumpkin spice?
No, I heard somebody say fall yesterday on
Ah,
like NPR, and I was like, oh, it's not fall. Shut up, you
that's what
know.
my husband says. It's not fall. I'm like,
But
I'm having pumpkin. It's fall.
right, no, I mean I love fall too. It's like I think fall is my favorite season, but
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm not ready.
Oh, I'm always ready for fall. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, we don't have much going on here except the garden. For us during this time, it's all about getting the garden ready to go. So that's what I've been
hmm
working on this week since I've been back from kayaking.
Yes, because you're just getting the seeds in the ground now.
Yeah, you have to do all the digging first.
Mm,
So I've done the digging and the moving and the planning. And so now it's just putting the seeds in the ground. I think that's what we're going to be doing this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be pretty exciting for at least for me to watch them all pop up. I've never been really a gardener.
Mm-hmm.
And so even my ill attempts at gardening over the summer, I'm excited to get a fall harvest.
I can't wait to get pictures
Yes,
and
I will
hear
definitely share
hear
pictures.
how your little ones are coming along.
Yes, yes. So yeah, you definitely will. I'm very excited when I see Dan's just as excited as I am, though too. So it's
hmm
definitely something we can do together.
Yeah. I was I've been like this journey that I've been on. I feel like it is kind of a bit of a spiritual. I don't know. It's like everything to me is kind of a spiritual experience anymore,
Hmm.
but I kind of made this decision to, travel around and I guess see what happens. And, like a lot of things, you come to learn or experience things
Mm.
didn't expect to, but I'm really grateful for like the perception change and that sort of thing. And so I think it's been really interesting for me to I felt really cared for in a lot of
Oh,
ways.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
one that I was able to secure some of like the resources I need outside of like people being kind and generous to me. Like I've been able to kind of like keep my medications in line and my medical care and my taking care of my housing that I left back home, and all that sort of stuff. And it's just been there'd be lots of opportunity for me to feel really unsettled or vulnerable or insecure or whatever. And thankfully, I haven't really found myself in that spot
Oh,
yet,
that's
which is
good.
nice. Yeah, and I feel like that's part of us, like me just trusting, you know.
Oh, for sure it is. For
Yeah.
sure it is. I can't imagine though how challenging this transition. I mean, but I think you're in a constant transition right now, right?
hmm
Going from
Yeah.
place to place.
Yeah. I mean, transition on so many levels, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And there's parts of it that's really easy. And most of it really is, it's like all of
Yeah.
the challenge stuff it's usually what's going on in my head. But it's been really great for me to, in some ways, address some of the fears, address, like take on some of the fears that I've had, or coming to see where where I've limited myself
Yeah,
from an experience.
that's incredible. I've
Yeah.
really been praying that this journey would be something that would be very fulfilling and then expand your potential and your purpose and the plans that you have. So that's exciting. I'm glad it's off to a good start.
Yeah, I think so far so good. And
And
trying to go ahead.
I was going to say, and your encounters with people, I'm sure, have been wonderful.
Yeah, it's been really great. It's been an interesting kind of balance to like be present here
Hmm.
and with what's going on, but also still trying to stay connected with like my family and my friends and people that I really want to stay connected with. And so
Yeah,
I think when I was in Virginia, it was very much more of kind of a vacation time, and I was kind of more in vacay mode.
yeah,
But now, like this week, I've been able to kind of like get back into a groove, start my regular therapy sessions, do a little bit I was doing some meditation when I was on vacation, but even like doing meditation now and
hmm,
having my morning routine and those sorts of things has been kind of nice to pick up some of that and just trying to stay in contact with people, even if it's just a text message or a phone call, means I'm not going to be physically with with people as with the same people that I
yeah,
was.
yeah,
That's something I'm really looking at how I can. It's just interesting how it's like how you frame things. I can choose
yeah.
to I don't know. It's just how, it's just what I want to choose to focus on and Hey y'all, it's me again, Bonnie Violet. I just wanted to take a second and thank my Patreon members. Patreon members are folks who contribute on a monthly basis anywhere from $3 to $150 a month to support the work of a queer chaplain. Big shout out to Victoria Thompson, Jason Brandt, Brandon Stanton, Kim Silva, Brandy McCarg, Randy Sandknott, Bob Kaiser, Joey Heckmeister, Violet Rhiannon, Gabriel, Jonathan, Petrick, and Todd Atkins Whitley. Thank you so much for your continued contributions. And if you're interested in joining the Patreon, just check the link in the description. Go to patreon.com/Bonnie Violet. Thanks so much. Bye bye. Yeah.
That sounds great. Yeah, I'm a very much a morning routine person.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really awesome that you're able to maintain your morning routine because I know for me, my morning routine is very much a part of my spiritual life.
Mm,
And if I have to start my day sometimes without that or without planning for a different type of a start, sometimes it gets me sideways by the end of the day.
mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
that's pretty cool that you're able to kind of get back on track with that after your vacation. And yeah, I think that'll be a amazing thing for you to experience in all these different locations,
Mm-hmm.
in different spaces. So that's awesome. Well,
Yeah. And
go ahead.
what's that?
I was going to say, do you mind sharing with us a little bit about what your routine is?
I mean, I think the big part of me is just being able to get up and spend a little bit of time with myself. It depends on the day, but I think for me, I do try to take the time, and I think that's the big
Hmm.
thing. It's not always that I do the exact thing every time, every day. And part of that is I'm not because I might be somewhere different or,
Gotcha.
my morning starts at a different time. But I usually try to be really intentional about what I do with like about my first hour of the day, which usually might include if I'm not going to read something, I'll at least listen something to music or listen to something. I might even watch something that I might find just kind of, gets me going with my day,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of gets my head in a good space, and looking forward. And I think one of the things I've always looked up to, or one of the things I've always noticed with people who seem to live or have a spiritual connection that I've like aspire or I kind of think like, ooh, I want some of that. I think those morning rituals or morning things that folks do. I think that's a common thing with people who are uh, grounded and connected and things like that. I think it's a pretty common
Yeah. I,
habit, I guess.
yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's really awesome. I see. I struggle with well, when my space changes, my routine changes a little bit. Even
Hmm.
last weekend when I was out and about, I tried to kind of keep my routine, but some of the things that I like to use on my routine weren't available to me. So
Hmm.
it was an adjustment. But that's really awesome. I think
Hmm.
I don't know. I think my routine grounds me also. So that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, there's always more, right? There's always more I could do or
Yeah,
something different I feel
always.
like I could do to add to it, but it's feeling pretty good overall.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Are you learning new ideas or new things about what a routine might look like based on your other folks that you're interacting with?
Mm, no, not necessarily yet.
Not
I think
necessarily yet. Okay.
specifically around that, I think what's been really great is to have an opportunity. I think a lot of the times um, we I've had a lot of opportunity to put into words
Hmm.
some of my experience and some of what's been different since, say, the last time I've interacted with the people that I'm connecting with.
Gotcha.
Like right now,
Gotcha.
I'm staying
Yeah.
with a good friend, an old boss from Chicago. So, that was 4 years ago that we both lived in Chicago together. I've seen him a couple of times, over the last 4 years, but just kind of thinking about like, what has happened in that time frame and how my perception and how even I speak of myself. Um, I remember being really like kind of in like I didn't have a lot of confidence
Mm.
a few years ago. I couldn't tell you that I was talking with another person here who's a spiritual kind of person who's trying to also do coaching, very similar to me, just a different vein of things. And we were talking a little bit, and he mentioned that idea of like, well, who am I? Like, who am I to do this thing, or who am I as in like what are my qualifications?
Okay.
What makes me worthy or blah blah blah, that sort of stuff. And so I feel like I lacked a lot of confidence
Oh,
in who I am, what my experience is, and what I have to offer and what I don't have to offer. I think I always or I often felt like I had to kind of downgrade my ability either because I was insecure about it or also because I didn't have a lot of the credentialing that
I
comes
get
in
it.
the ways that people are used to um,
Yeah.
hearing about. And because I felt like that was a shortcoming of mine or a weakness, then I was just really insecure about it. And so I was constantly kind of like bombarded by that because
Yeah.
that's kind of what I
Yeah.
was looking for. And now I feel like I can be really confident and comfortable with the idea like I know who I am and why not I? Why not I?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think that's
and
amazing.
yeah, so it's been nice to kind of like not only like come to know that, understand that for myself, but then to experience it with other people. It just takes it
Yeah.
to like a whole nother level, right? Um,
Yeah.
and it just becomes that much more real and that much more of a reality of the
Yeah.
reality that I actually live in rather than just this reality that I've created in my mind that
I gotcha.
it's actually put into practice.
Right.
Because I think that's also one thing, with shelter in place and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
I'm living in a lot more isolation, and I haven't had as much practice to actually be with people and those sorts of things. And it hasn't always been. I've noticed, like I've just noticed where I was just reminded of like
Mm.
some things that are still maybe growing points or
Gotcha.
um, responses, I guess, that I thought I was kind of over, but I
Hmm.
just hadn't had the opportunity to experience it. And so I didn't really know what was going on anymore or not. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense to me. Makes total
Yeah.
sense to me. But it's, it's exciting to know that we're growing and we're becoming more purposeful and we're able to achieve some of the things that we've dreamed about over time.
Hmm.
How much do you think the morning, I don't know, routine or ritual or preparation for your day affects that? Your ability to be confident and to know who you
Hmm.
are.
Well, I think that in combination with, all the other things that I do in my life now and the people that I have in my life and the activities that I do. So like the morning stuff is really helpful, right? Because it's
Yeah.
something that kind of can get me off to the right, get me off into the right direction.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's just like a combination of things that kind of reinforce um, that, that just kind of reinforce that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit of everything anymore. Um,
Isn't that the truth?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's exciting. We've had some similar experiences, it sounds like, in some of the
Hmm.
areas of our life, as far as not feeling qualified or the credentials that the world requires of us to dwell and to work within certain areas of our lives.
Hmm.
So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really interesting how that works too, because I feel like a lot of my identity in some ways and a lot of the way that I see myself in the world is to be outside of the rules or outside of the norm, or like there isn't a right way to say be a spiritual leader or
Hmm.
to do this thing or that thing, and yet there are times when I feel like I'm not doing it right, which seems odd because if I don't believe there is a right way, then why am I feeling like I can be doing it wrong? And
Yeah.
I think it's just in that the normative way, right?
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying or no?
I'm trying to follow I'm it's okay. I'm trying to follow. I can appreciate where you're going and I can appreciate what you're trying to do. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I encourage you to keep seeking for those things that you're looking for because I know that you have a purpose and I'm
Hmm.
grateful. So yeah, that's awesome. My morning routine is very much a part of my life, and it changes day to day
Hmm.
sometimes depending on time frame, what I feel like I need. I have a few things that I'll gravitate to for different types of things. You don't know if you wake up sometimes if you're wake up automatically in a good mood or you wake up in a bad mood or whatever. Sometimes that'll dictate how I spend that morning time first thing in the morning.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. I try not to wake up pre-programmed to be
Mm. Mm.
frustrated or annoyed or whatever, but sometimes I don't know if it's because of what I dreamt that I don't remember, if it was because of what I ate the day before I
Mm.
went to sleep, I have no idea, but there are some days I'm like, "Okay, I need to do something different this morning."
Right. Well, and I
So,
think some of that sometimes comes down to too, like, what did you do the night before, the day before?
yeah.
I think a big part of one thing that I came to understand in recovery, they call it a 10th step, but it's the idea that at the end of the day, you kind of do an inventory of like what I did well, what I could have done better. Are there any is there anything that I need to do to like do I owe an apology somewhere?
Mm,
Do I, like those sorts of things, and it's just kind of a nice little like spot check, if you will.
that's
Um,
awesome.
I know I know for me, it was really important for me to get to a space where I not only look at, because I think there was a time when I'd very much just look at what I did wrong. What did I do wrong today? Or what didn't I
Yeah,
do well today? Or what didn't I get done? Right. And for me, again, because I've always been just so critical of myself, it's really helpful for me to actually talk about what I did do well and or what I didn't do not well, if that makes
right.
sense. Like I
Yeah,
didn't
absolutely.
send this email, or I didn't say this thing that I felt like I wanted to say, or I didn't like whatever. So it's been really helpful, I think, for me, and that's what an inventory is meant to do, is that you actually look at what you have and what you don't have. You're not just
Yeah,
focusing on what you don't have.
that's great. That's a really great tool.
Yeah. Right? I know I was talking with I'm going to be doing this podcast in a couple of weeks, or this episode we're going to be recording it, and we're talking about the kind of conversion therapy, and there was a documentary that recently came out, and he's also, he's a gay man, and just kind of talking about like relationships, and how do we it's like I was sharing with him a little bit about our conversation about and my recent experience with around, like, say, the trans issue, and feeling like, how can I like, I need to know, and she needs to understand this, so that I don't know, in order for me to truly be loved by her, or I don't know, like, there was some sort of, you know what I mean, like what we talked
Yeah,
about
yeah,
before,
yeah.
and he was sharing kind of a similar situation. I think very different. I think that, there's a little bit more going on, but I thought it was kind of interesting and a great opportunity to hear how folks are really navigating that, and it's like, I think it's an interesting balance of trying to figure out what's when does something cross that line, I guess, for people, you
Oh,
know.
yeah. I'm kind. What I'm lost with cross that line. I'm like,
I
wait
know.
a second.
Well, I think like like there might be, for instance, there maybe somebody like thinks that you're like, they're going to be okay with the fact that you are who you are, but when you're around
Hmm.
their kids, they want you to not be who you are,
I gotcha. I
or
gotcha.
they don't want to participate in, or you can't bring this part of yourself into the relationship or something like that. And I
Gotcha.
think that's where you kind of like, I don't know, like, I think if I wasn't able to do that, I think
I
that I don't
gotcha.
know that I could be in relation. You know what I mean? So I think it's just that, I don't know, it's so individual, and
It,
kind of
it, it is.
understanding where that comes from.
And I think that's a fine line between honoring the people around you and being who you are. Because I know
Hmm.
there's times when I don't come into a space full blown Tina,
Yeah.
because I know there's people around me that may think differently, may not appreciate me, maybe even people that I know already don't like me. And especially if I'm in someone's house that I love or respect, or place, I certainly will not. I would choose not to, and not be offended by it. I'd feel like this is just my part of being a part of an amazing group of people, everyone being who they are. Because
Right.
again, we've already talked about this. I don't have the ability to change anybody. You don't have the ability to change anybody. In my opinion, the only person who has the ability to change is God. And so my role is to be the best person that I can be, to be loving, kind, and respectful to the people around me, and pray for people
Hmm.
as God puts them on my heart. So I think there's
Yeah.
a space where we're like, well, I'm not allowed to be who I am, versus I'm willing to not think about myself in this instant, so that everyone here can be comfortable or be,
Well, and I think, yeah, and I mean, I think that's part of the challenge, because, like, for me, I think I try so hard that, I want to bring all of me wherever I go. Like, it's important for me to be a whole person. It's important for me to always be connected wholly,
hmm
fully, like, with myself, and to not feel like I need to change myself, or not bring a part of myself into a situation. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't choose to do that, and that doesn't mean that there are times that that might be appropriate, or you know what I mean? But um, I don't know. I just feel like I don't know if I want to be in a space, or if it's that important for me to be in a space in which I couldn't bring those things. I couldn't bring all myself into anymore, like.
I get it. What you got to determine what your whole self looks like, and what a mature
Mhm.
whole self looks like. To me, a whole self goes with me everywhere. Just because I'm not wearing I don't know, a t-shirt that says whatever it is I want it to say that could be offensive to someone else. It doesn't mean I still don't think that or feel that or desire that. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that I'm choosing to put someone else's potential hurt, offense, or whatever above my own, I feel like is an act of maturity on my part. Doesn't change who I am, doesn't change how I am. And there are instances that I choose not to participate, but usually not because I can't bring on the outside. I can't, I don't know, an outside reflection of my inside. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that doesn't change who I am on the inside. I've been
Right.
learning a lot about how I enter a space, how I affect the people around me. I spent a lot of years being told that I was intimidating. You, in some ways, have said that
Mm-hmm.
differently, but
Yeah.
and it's like I don't want to be intimidating. That doesn't mean that I change. I am still a different person. That just means when I interact with people, I interact differently. One, I've grown a
Mm-hmm.
lot because of the time that I spend with Jesus, but two, there's some things that even though I'll evaluate, is this worth battling for or not? And
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to offending other people, um, being unkind to other people, having a negative effect on the group as a whole, a lot of times I'll choose that. That's not the right battle.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I think part of the challenge gets to for folks is like, okay, but what parts are non-negotiables? Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's certain like you might be able to ask me not to, I don't know, don't cuss at my
Mm-hmm.
house.
Mm-hmm.
That might be different than don't bring your husband to my
Right.
house, you
Yeah.
know.
Well,
Um,
no,
you
I
know,
agree. In that instance, I guess if I wouldn't go if I couldn't bring my husband. I would just say,
right.
okay, I'll see you when I can bring my husband.
Hmm.
Or if
Yeah,
you
and
want
I
to come
think
to my house where my husband is.
right, right. And I think that's like that sort of thing is like for people, their sexuality, their sexual orientation, those are all parts of that. Like their same-sex partner or their gender, you know what I mean? Like that's something that they're gonna bring with them and it doesn't feel like it's a negotiable kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's kind of more so I think the challenges is where you're yeah, I mean, if I wasn't allowed to be like trans and show up the way that I am, like say in relationship with you, I don't
Hmm.
why would I be in like then part of it would be like I don't know. I just don't think that that's something that and it's nothing you've ever asked of me. I'm not trying to put that on you. I'm just
Oh, I
trying to
know. I
speak
know.
in general. Like I just don't think that's one thing that I don't think I'm willing to give up um, to be in relationship with somebody because I've done that my whole life. You know, um, it's like something that's not negotiable. If you want me to not wear booty shorts, that's like a that's like a whole nother thing. I'd
Yeah,
rather you
yeah.
not wear Daisy Dukes to our wedding or whatever. I
Right,
think
right.
that's a little bit different than saying, could you just not be transgender today or can you leave your gay at home, whatever that means? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just, I think those are the things where it goes too far. Um, and and yet though, I do think that's where some people draw those lines
Mhm.
out of their own, like, I don't know what it is that does that, to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't understand how that sort of stuff still continues to get in the way a lot of people's relationships in a lot
I,
of families.
I think there's a lot of selfishness, is how I would describe that. Selfishness on everyone's part. We all have a level of that in our lives, no matter how hard we try not to, myself included. And I think sometimes we can get caught up in the selfishness of it and forget the love behind it, especially when we're dealing with our family. Now, not in the instance of if you're married and you want to bring your husband to Christmas. I think, see, I think that person should look past that in love and say, family's family.
Right. But even
Now,
if they're just like they're not a married partner, but they're a partner, why not?
yeah, either way,
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to
either
make
way. Yeah, yeah.
clarification because in that it sounded like, oh, well, if they're married, it's okay. But if
Oh,
they're
I'm
not
sorry. I didn't
married,
mean it
it
to
wouldn't be
sound
okay.
like that.
No, and I'm not saying that you did, but I'm just like
Yeah,
adding
yeah,
to that it's not just about the fact that you're married, that it makes it okay or non-negotiable is the fact that, it's a loved one or significant other that you are doing life with.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
So, but on the other side of that, if someone was, I don't know, maybe on their deathbed and was uncomfortable but wanted to see you one last time, and you said, I'm not coming unless I brought my significant other, I think that would be a selfish move on that part.
Mm.
You don't want to even say goodbye to this person who you say you love or that loves you. So I think there's lots of gray areas here. So I think acceptance for everybody needs to
Hmm.
be tempered with the situation. And I have a list, not like yours, for in the mornings, but I do have a list or a temperament. Why do I feel? Why does this bother me?
Mm.
And I ask myself those questions. Is there a reason I think like this? What does this have to do with me? Does it really have anything? Because these are questions I ask myself, even with conversations like, I don't know, have you ever thought something negative about someone you see on the street that you don't even know? Like, oh, they should not be wearing that top.
Hmm.
Guilty. And then I think, why do I even have that thought? Why does that even come up in my mind? I do that with other things when we're dealing with. We have a lot of folks around us that are different than we are.
Hmm.
Praise God, because I don't want to be around people that are just like me. That doesn't help me so much. I love those people and I enjoy those people, but I want people who help me to be better, who challenge me to grow and to not be stuck in a rut and to be the same every single day when I wake up. So that's the desire of my heart. But to be in that space, sometimes I can't come in bold and
Yeah.
crazy and look at me and whatever that might look like. So there has to be some wisdom behind that. At the end of the day, I want to love people, and of course we all want to be loved. But the truth is, everyone's not going to love me, or maybe not
Right.
even like me, and I need to be okay with that. And I need to give them the space to do that until they realize on their own that maybe there's something here that's compatible with who they are.
Right. And I think like the big thing is like I think sometimes it's really easy to like be like, well, the other person's behavior isn't acceptable or okay, but it's like I really just need to like think about my behavior and my
Mm-hmm.
desire and what's okay or not okay for me. And I think it's an interesting balance though of that like denying yourself or setting something aside without betrayal of self, and I think that's depending upon where you're at in your understanding of your identity or certain parts of your growth of yourself, like to to let go of something like that would be a betrayal. Later in life it might not be, but I mean I think those are so it's like I just have a lot of compassion and understanding for that need and that desire and that unwillingness to put myself aside in certain situations or a part about myself aside, that's so important to me. Um, and yet I still want to challenge myself to not let that get in my way of um, being in relation with people, more
Mm-hmm.
people, and to hopefully have a bigger understanding and capacity for um, more of existence and the way people exist and the way people see and perceive things.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I feel like it's sometimes I think even talking on here, sometimes I can feel like I'm like um like I'm not just speaking for me. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not just when that's all I am doing. That's all I can do. I can only just share my experience and try to convey it and communicate it in a way as best as possible. But sometimes I feel like, like I'm the trans person or I'm the queer person, I'm with a conservative Christian person, and like I need to you know, make a stand, or I need to speak for others who are in a different position or place or might see things differently than I do. And so it's been a really interesting kind of like back and forth of feeling like, okay, is this me growing? Is this me accepting things, or is this me um, submitting or not being true, or betraying myself in some way? And so those are the things that I'm constantly checking with myself. A lot of like what you're talking about is like, how did these things make me feel, or what is going on with this thing that's triggering me for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm just kind of putting that out there a little bit, where sometimes I feel like in these conversations with me more lately, it's just like I don't always feel like I'm just able to share my experience. And so,
Oh, I
which is
apologize
fine.
if I've not given you room to do that, because I want you to do that.
It's not you. It's I'm just saying in general, and you might feel this too, that you might feel like you're having to speak for other Christians or something, or perceiving that other people might be thinking of you as the Christian, or what, you know what I mean? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and so for me, I think sometimes I get in that place of like, well, um, if I do this thing, am I saying to other people like me that I don't know, that they're where they're at doesn't matter, or they're what's important to them, or what they're unwilling to or willing to kind of like discuss or not discuss or put aside, or make sure they bring to the table. It's going to be different for all of us, and it's going to be, I think, different for all of us at different parts in our life.
Yeah, I think so. And at the end of the day, we have to realize that everyone is on their own journey.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as we may be afraid that we're speaking for someone or giving an impression to someone of something, at the end of the day, that's really not our responsibility.
Right.
I appreciate what you're saying, because we don't want to say things that are hurtful or misleading or misguiding somebody else. We want to be considerate and compassionate to those around us who are listening and who may not be exactly on the same page as us. But at the end of the day, um, there is a responsibility to be who we are. Um, but I think that for me, as a Christian and as a mature Christian, I've learned a long time ago that my life is not dictated for self gain. The gain that I have in my life comes by my walk with the Lord. It's the fruit of that life. I can't pursue it because I'll never get it. That comes from my walk with who Jesus is, both on an intellectual, on a spiritual, on every area of my life. And so if,
Yeah.
if I'm lacking there, then these other areas of my life are going to lack. My confidence that we talked about already, it comes from that. I don't have credentials like people around me have.
Mm-hmm.
My desires are similar to those people. And I could, the world says no, but no, the world doesn't. The world may say no, but my spirit says yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so for my pursuit is, okay, I'm going to continue to surrender. I don't believe in self-betrayal. I think I need to die to myself so that the fullness of my spirit can live. If I don't die to those things that um, I want and feel like I need, and those things that I've defined by the world standard, then I don't think I can move forward spiritually. And that's the desire of my heart, because I'm only going to fulfill my purpose if I reach that place spiritually.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, and
because
I
I'll
think,
go ahead.
yeah, and I mean, but I'm just figuring it's part of that, and I think it all comes down to language and perception. But like, what is denying yourself of one thing, or giving up one thing, or not doing, like, I think sometimes we hear this idea that, we're not supposed to get anything from living. and being ourselves, that we should not ever have anything gained. But I feel like
Oh, I don't think
I've
that. If I said that, I
I've
didn't mean it.
no, I mean, I feel like that's sometimes what's heard. It's this, or my
Yeah.
perception is that there's like this idea, in order to be right with God, I have to deny myself, which makes sense in some ways, but not in the sense of like, I know that my full self, like me being able to be at my fullest, wholest, like place is actually going to make me that much better for God. Do you know what I mean? And that much more
Yeah.
able to show up in the way that God would have me.
And see, the only difference, so you and I have a difference here, and it's okay. It's okay to be different. I believe that I can only become my full self as I allow myself to surrender more to God's will. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way I know God's will is by interacting with God and reading the passages of God. And I don't need to make myself better for God, because I'm only better through God.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't pursue those things on my own. My only pursuit is Jesus, and He takes care of all that other stuff for me.
Yeah.
And my heart, my intuition, my thoughts, my hopes, my dreams, all those things. He takes care of those things.
Yeah. And I don't think that I'm different from what you're saying. Again, I think it's just kind of how we're saying it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, like because I know that I know what's good for me is what God wants for me. So
That's
like
exactly right.
so it's not about me wanting to get more than what is meant for me or more than what God would have for me, but it is important for me to have what God would have for me, and for me to, to live in that. It doesn't take me being less than that. Being less than that
Right.
is actually not what God would have me do or have me be,
Right.
which I know is not what you're saying either, And so I think it's just kind of comes down to like when we hear certain things,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
going to take it to a certain place, whereas, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I get what you're saying, but when I hear it in certain words, then like, this is how I perceive it. And it's like, no,
Gotcha.
that's not what she's saying.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I get it.
It's interesting how that kind of,
Well, because we have perspective from where we're from. So that makes sense. And that's why it's important that we have conversations like this to challenge our basic perspectives. See, for me, it's a nutshell. I pursue God. God reveals Himself in me and through me. That's it. That's my only thing. I got to pursue God. I don't have to pursue anything else.
yeah,
Um, and it sounds easy, but it's not. I know it's
right.
not. It's not easy for me every single day. It's not easy for you every single day. So yeah. So thanks for clarifying
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I
and
feel that,
challenging me, because that's what this is about. I want to learn.
yeah, because I mean, I feel like even just the way you just said it, I'm like, sure, yeah, I get that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, it's just, again, it's just how what we label things and what that means. It's so, it's like that whole thing, like when I remember when I was a kid and they first told you, like, you know, think of a white house, and we can think of a white house, and it's going to be a different white house
Yeah.
because of our perception. It's kind of like even what we brought up last week with the blind man and the elephant.
Yeah.
It's like we're all going to have our own experience, sometimes of the quote unquote same thing, but sometimes you need to have more than just that generic white house. Like it's more of like, think of the white house you grew up in, like
Yeah.
something to add a little bit more context to it, and specificity, I think, in order to kind of be more on the same page, or be,
Yeah.
seeing the same thing in the closest way as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, yeah. Which in some ways is like, then why do we even talk if
Yeah.
if we're not going to be able to fully understand? And I think that's kind of where I've gotten the last couple of weeks ago. It's like I don't know that we're ever going to be able to understand it in the same way. And in my heart, I feel like we do get it. But I struggle with the words, with saying the words that I get it, and also hearing the words come from you in a way in which lands in that understanding. That makes sense?
I think
Because
so.
because it's just so rigid. It's like I have to hear it a certain way in order for me to feel understood. And so if somebody doesn't say that in those same ways, then I feel not understood. But
Well, as
that's
long as
not
you don't,
necessarily true.
right. As long as you don't stand in a place of offense because you don't feel like you're understood in that moment, then I think there's room for opportunity for people to grow
Mhm. Which
on
is
both
really
sides.
hard, which I think is really hard, but sometimes I feel like, then what the hell are we talking for?
Yeah, true.
Not necessarily like with us, but just like in general, it's like if we're
Well,
yet
if we're having
there's
a
this
conversation, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry. I didn't
No,
mean
go
to
ahead.
interrupt you. No, you go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, I was just gonna say, yet there's this drive, or I know that I have this like that I feel like most people have is this idea of wanting to be understood and wanting to understand others.
Yeah.
Just kind of wanting to understand.
We just have to be careful that as we are in relationship with one another, that our motive is not to change one another. And I find that when we get uncomfortable and we seek understanding,
Hmm.
I think a lot of time people don't think you understand them because you don't agree with them or you don't think like them or whatever. So I think for folks, not us, because we've worked through most of this, but I think people think to be understood, they have to change the other person to their way of thinking, and that's not necessarily
Mm.
true. We have to be open to new ways of thinking, but that doesn't mean we have to change who we are, our perspective of things. We need to be open to gain knowledge and understanding, and maybe wisdom would be my goal from things. But that doesn't mean I'm going to jump right in and change my whole way of thinking. I don't want to have conversations with you, and you don't want to have conversations with me for the purpose of changing one another.
Yeah.
Because I love you. I love you the way God created you. I love you because I know He's got something amazing in your life that's going to come through your life for the purpose of everybody else around you. And I don't want to change any of that. I want to encourage you, and I don't have to agree with what every season of your life looks like.
Right.
That's not my job. I don't have to change you to think like I think. Because our seasons are different or our perspectives are different. And so I don't want to have conversations that are motivated by wanting to change. And that's all. I just don't want us to seek understanding under that guise when we're really trying to change one another, because I don't want
Right.
to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all.
Yes. Yes. And we are about 5 minutes over
Okay.
the
Well, I guess
45
we should.
minutes.
I guess we should say our goodbyes. See, we have great conversations even all by ourselves.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
we love each other.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
all right.
Do you want to
Thanks.
take us out?
I will. Sure, why not? So, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I know that you may not be with us here in this moment, but I know you're going to listen later on. So, thank you for that. We appreciate your time. We appreciate the opportunity to answer your questions, engage with you. So, look for us out in the world, out in the real world. I'm on Facebook. I identify as Christian. Bonnie Violet is out on a whole bunch of mediums. She gave a list at the beginning. I'm sure she'll give us another list here. But reach out to us. Give us an opportunity to engage a little bit. Help us to expand our perspective and to get to know you and to understand who you are. Because you know what? We think you're amazing. Thanks for joining us.
Agreed. Thanks so much, and we'll see you all the next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Splintered Grace Podcast is brought to you by a queer chaplain. Follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at a queer chaplain. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, comment, like, and share. Feel free to tip us at Venmo, Bonnie Violet, and support monthly on Patreon. The song is original by Stephen Sandnoff, The Chasm Between Us. Rest in peace, Stephen. how's it going? Bonnie Violet here. I'm a trans femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, and digital chaplain. And in case you didn't know, I could really use your support. Engage, rate, subscribe, follow, comment, share this episode, book me to keynote, panel, guest on your show, or officiate your wedding or memorial, in or out of drag. Collaborate, join the team, be a guest, make a pitch, sponsor an episode, join my Patreon, send me a tip on Venmo or PayPal. Just do something. Thank you so much for your continued support. Check out the links in the description.